What is going on, YouTube fitness family? I got my banana outfit on, my UCLA gear, but no jokes, I got my Alphalete gear on. I'm gonna take this off in a little bit, but I gotta get pump on first. But I got a special video for you guys. I'm gonna be doing the top 5 reasons that your chest is not growing, and I think this could be probably one of the most value-driven episodes for anybody that has trouble growing their chest, because it's gonna expose a lot of the misconceptions when it comes to, especially hypertrophically, driving enough stimulus to grow in your chest. I'm gonna have Phil pop a picture for a 2-year transformation of my side chest, and I know the legs are crazy, but you can see how much development I have in my chest as well, and I think it really lends itself to the change in training style that I have kind of taken on over this last couple of years. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Point number 1 is do more flies. And what I mean by that is, doesn't mean just means machine flies, cable flies, any type of movement where you are, instead of doing a pressing modality where you're going from A to B, it's here. You're going for a cable or a machine, and you're expanding the chest and putting it more on an island. What I tell people about pressing is it's such a multi-lever movement pattern where you've got chest, you've got front delt, you've got tricep. You can even engage your lat in presses, and even some high-level powerlifters will talk about how important, let's say, leg drive is for a bench press. So you can see how many muscle groups are getting involved. Now, when we're talking about hypertrophy, we're trying to drive as much stimulus with as little amount of injury risk and fatigue possible. And flies tend to be extremely high stimulus fatigue ratio, meaning you don't have to use as much weight, but since you're loading it and isolating it so much more than a press, you can drive just as much stimulus with less load. The other big thing is the stretch. You can get much more stretch, generally speaking, in a fly movement for your chest than you can in a pressing modality. If your arms are straighter and you're coming back here, you're able to open up through the chest more, get more stretch, and as we know, stretch-mediated hypertrophy is a very real thing. It's science-based. So if you can load in that stretch position and really pause in that stretch position, it can really help you with the growth. And one last point to make, which is very important, is longevity. If you are doing tons of heavy, short, explosive presses, your joints, your elbows, your front delt, your rotator cuff, your labrum in your shoulder, all these things over time are getting just grounded down. And so what with the fly, if you're doing things really controlled and you're getting really comfortable in that stretch position, you're actually opening up your pec minor, opening up that tissue, so it's gonna be pulling less on those joints, especially elbow and heavier pressing. I don't ever have to worry about that wrist as well. A lot of people start getting wrist problems later in their career or even into their 30s by doing super heavy bench pressing or dumbbell pressing. You see guys fucking wrapping up their elbows, wrapping up their wrists, and the reason for that is just because there's a lot of wear and tear. So I'm gonna show you guys what a really, really good fly set looks like. And don't think that you can't go heavy on your flies. You can go super fucking heavy on your flies once you've built up strength and good range of motion and you feel comfortable within these movement patterns. So let's fucking dig into it. Opening up that chest. See how fucking open I am right here? And then consciously pushing through. And my point with weight, I have 280 pounds in the stack here. I'm controlling the fuck out of this weight. Big stretch. And then consciously pushing through, big squeeze. I'm less worried about the squeeze on the peak contraction as I am really getting comfortable here in this stretch position. So I'd rather you focus on the eccentric, so from here, back out into that stretch pause, than I would be you holding a contracted position, meaning coming out to the middle and holding for a 4 count or something like that. That's not gonna be as efficacious as getting really comfortable here in this stretch. This for me with 280 pounds, completely comfortable. Like I could sit here back here for a good 5 minutes, no problem. And I think that's why my body feels so much better than it did, let's say 5, 6, 7 years ago when I would focus so much on heavier pressing. Okay, point number 2 is if you're gonna press, stop barbell pressing. If you're a bodybuilder, if you're interested in growing a bigger chest, there's just a lot of limitations that the barbell bench press is going to incline, decline, flat is going to present. The main thing is limited range of motion. The bar is going to stop you here, where you realistically have 3, 4, 5 more inches of range of motion, which is what I'm going to show you on this machine. This allows me to get. So the second thing is instability. The barbell press, there's a lot that can go wrong here. Shoulders, bicep, tricep, and you're gonna be inevitably a lot of times chasing weight. What everybody talks about is how much you bench press. If you're so focused and you're tying so much of your progress to how much weight you're moving from A to B, you're going to tend to want to move that weight by any means necessary. So you can start using your lats, your triceps, your front delt to launch. You can use that stretch reflex when you get to the bottom of the rep to bounce out instead of actually using your fucking chest. So to rectify that, start using pressing movements that are going to allow you to really focus in on the chest, to really drive consciously through the chest. Don't have as much instability. So a machine press is usually a good one. If you have a plate loaded press, hammer strength, all great options. The last thing I'll say about bench press, ergonomically speaking, your pinkies are going to track your elbows. So if you are bench pressing and you get tired, especially instead of being here nice and tucked, you're going to get tired and you're going to start to lift those elbows to try to finish your rep. This puts a tremendous amount of tension on your front delt and on your pec minor, whereas where most people get tears when they're pressing, bench pressing specifically. So I'm going to walk you through this machine press and why I like it, considering you see how I put the seat as far forward as I possibly can. What that's going to do is elicit so much better of a stretch response than if I had it set back, even though I can't lift nearly as much weight as if I was set back and just focus on top end strength. I'm focusing so much more on controlling the movement pattern and making sure I'm actually driving with my chest specifically. So when you're setting your seat height, what I'd recommend is actually being a slightly, what I like to call on top of the weight. So you don't want to have it be so low that you're almost like down towards your nipple line, but this is right about perfect. So it's right around my nipple line, just maybe barely below my handles. What that allows me to do is stay on top of the weight and use mechanical leverage to drive through the chest and keep it out of my front delt. So here, big stretch. You see I already have tension at the back of the rep. Now when I press out, I'm consciously driving with my chest. I'm gonna set, drop the shoulder blades back, open up the chest, slow eccentric load, big open through the chest, and then instead of exploding out, a lot of people talk about explode out. I would recommend not exploding out, I would drive out through your chest. So drive out, squeeze. And on these, the amount of chest specifically I feel is absolutely ludicrous. And the only thing I don't like about this machine is that it doesn't converge. I do not love that about Arsenal, but I do like this, that it allows me to get a big stretch. But Panatta pressing machines, hammer strength, do a lot better job of convergence, which is gonna be much better for chest, but at the end of the day, the convergence is not as important for chest growth as that stretch bias and making sure you can control that press through your pecs. All right, point number 3 is use more cable movements. Cables are insane because you can control the vector of force. You can put the cables high to low, low to high. I have this one in a mid position and I'm doing a mid chest bench incline supported chest fly, one of my favorite movements. You're gonna get a crazy amount of stimulus, not only in the stretch position, but since they converge and that vector of force is coming from out to in, I can have a shit ton of tension and on the convergence on the most contracted position as well. So cables, to recap, allow for pretty maximized unlimited range of motion. I'm here, I'm way back, and then I'm consciously driving through my chest. I was talking about vectors of force angles. I put this all the way down the bottom, and now you've got a completely different exercise. Usually more focused on the pec minor and upper pec, now doing more of an upper chest dominant fly. So here, now since those angles coming from low to mid, now I have a completely different emphasis, different angle of where I'm tracking my hands, where I'm tracking the elbows. But like the same thing with the first exercise, tremendous range of motion, a ton of isolation through the chest. So can't say, like I said, enough good things about cables, especially when it comes to fly modality. All right, so point number 4, you've seen it throughout the video, increasing range of motion. So the more we can elicit a stretch response in back here, it's gonna do a number of things. Number 1, we talked about stretch medial hypertrophy. Number 2 is it's going to just cause your tissue to be healthier overall. If you get really comfortable in those stretch positions, you're going to open up your pec minor, your front delt, your biceps. Everything's just gonna thank you because you're not gonna be just training in those shortened positions. So if you can train lengthen, I always say train long to remain long. And so you see that with my leg work, my back work, my chest work, and that's why I'm so hyper mobile. People are like, dude, you look crazy athletic still when you run or do anything else. And I think it just lends itself to the training style that I'm not training so like explosive like a traditional like power lifter, like old school bodybuilder. I have this whole new style that I've taken up that allows me to get big as fuck, but also have that tissue be healthy. My joints feel amazing. And number 5, increasing time under tension. If you can stop tying your head and your gains so much to how much you're lifting and more about how you're lifting and how much you're feeling in the target muscle group, it's going to elicit such a better response. Your body's gonna thank you, your joints are gonna thank you. So, like you saw me do on those last set of flies, I started at 90 and I actually dropped it to 80 in each hand because I realized I got to like rep 6 and I was already kind of close to taking over with my front delts. And so what I did was I dropped to 80 and then I was able to go closer to 10 and 12 with some partials at the end. And all I felt was chest, no front delt, no biceps. So it goes to show, just because I'm lifting more doesn't mean I'm growing more muscle. It might mean that I'm taking over with other muscle groups or not lifting the weight as efficiently. So if you can start slowing down the movement patterns and tying your progress more to how much you're actually eliciting a response, how sore you're getting, how well you're recovering, all these things are going to supersede the actual weight that's being lifted. Your muscles don't know that you're lifting 80 or 90, it just knows how hard it's working, how much it's getting taxed. So instead of doing 1 to 2 second reps, try to start playing around with 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 second reps, which have shown to be extremely hypertrophic, and really get comfortable spending a lot of that time of your time retention in that stretch position. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, but I love you guys as always, and I will see you on the next video.